You're listening to the Greeks Gridiron, live with Ethan Hristodoulou.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to more of the Greeks Gridiron. I am Ethan Hristodoulou, and today, on this June 21st, 2022, I am talking a draft grade of the Tennessee Titans, a division rival of my Indianapolis Colts. And Titans fans, before you click away, you might be surprised with the letter grade that I came out for these guys altogether, from the players individually to the days overall and for the final grade as well. I'll give you a little preview right now. A little bit of a tough pill to swallow with just how good these draft classes actually, or this draft class specifically, ended up coming out here. So make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and my Titans fans, while you're listening to a rival Colts fan talk about your team, comment down below. Let me know what you guys think about your draft class. Who are you most excited about, and who are you maybe interested in maybe finding out as to why your team went and drafted that player? But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into it, shall we? So we'll start from the bottom. We'll begin with day number 3. We'll go through the day 3 guys, then the day number 2, and then ultimately cap things off with the Traylon Burks selection in day number 1 in round number 1. Beginning with Chance Campbell, the linebacker out of Mississippi here in round 6 at pick number 219. This is my lowest graded selection of the entire draft, so just know it only gets better from here as you're watching. C- is what I gave the pick, an average or so selection, give or take. Good eyes for the backfield to locate the ball quickly. He has a penchant for trying to rip the ball out, and he is a proven special teamer. This is a good depth guy altogether, the way I kind of look at him. Based off what the scouts are saying, he has some inconsistency to read and react to coverage things, and whether it's in zone or things like that. He's a little bit slow to react in certain things while he's in coverage. He has a little bit of a below average tackler as well, a tendency to get caught trying to drag opponents down, and when you're doing that in the NFL, or in college, it only becomes more difficult when you get yourself into the NFL. But this seems like he's going to be number 52, 3, something like that on the roster at best, a special teamer guy, someone who can help support on the kickoffs and punts and things like that. Again, average selection overall. Then we're looking at Theo Jackson, the cornerback out of Tennessee, in round number 6 at pick 204. This I graded out as a C. He is a big and long dude at 6'1", 198 pounds. He attacks the screens and hitches very aggressively. It actually does show up in his tapes if you do watch some of the videos on him. And he has a good ability to dislodge the throw. I feel like that when I was watching some highlight clips and things like that, there was an awful lot of him just sticking his ball in between defenders and getting that separation to make sure the ball does not make it to the receiver's hands, doing a very good job of that. And then as far as what scouts are saying for some of his deficiencies, below average foot quickness, so a little bit slower with the feet pedal there, struggles to match the change of direction on inside routes specifically, and he's not necessarily a guy that you can count on when it comes to run support. He is more of a strictly coverage type of corner, not a guy that's going to come up and thump the wide receiver or anything like that, or maybe the running back catching him on a stretch play or something like that. So again, I settled at a C, solid average pick, somewhere around there. Then moving into round number 5 at pick number 163, we have wide receiver Kyle Phillips out of UCLA. I gave this one a C+, a solid to somewhat above average selection here. He's a very good athlete. He proved that in his NFL combine. And then he was also praised for his football IQ by everyone. I feel like when I was reading profiles about him in various places, the IQ thing kept coming up over and over and over again. So I had to make sure I talked about that. He has good hands, not necessarily the greatest, but he does have good hands with a slight tendency to drop a pass here or there, more like concentration type drops and things like that. And balance as a player. And I just mean good overall balance as well. I've seen him make some catches, bounce off a guy, stumble, but catch himself and continue to keep on going. And he was a solid punt returner at that, averaging 19 yards per punt return. Scouts do say that they are a bit concerned about his size. He is only 5'11" and about 85 pounds, give or take, somewhere around there. And he does have a tendency to try to catch the ball with his chest as opposed to, the deep ball rather, with his chest rather than just his hands specifically, leading to some inconsistent catches and drops and things like that. Again, concentration type things. And he does need to polish up his route running and overall just as a player. But again, a solid selection, a good depth guy for the Titans here, considering the trade away for A.J. Brown. And I'm not saying that he's going to be A.J. Brown's replacement, but you trade away such a big piece, an integral part to your system. Hopefully Kyle Phillips can produce as, a slot guy or something like that, and just like various rotational roles early in his career. Then the 4th round, we are looking at Chigzem Okonkwo, the tight end out of Maryland there. I made sure to get the phonetic pronunciation of that because I wanted to get it right. I gave this one a C+ as well. He is a shorter but very athletic 6'2 tight end. He somewhere around like 240-ish pounds, give or take. He has a running back type of vision with the ball in his hands. Really good rack ability. A guy who with the ball in his hands can make a play. And he has a penchant for winning those jump balls as well. He's a very good 50-50 type guy going up there and coming down with the catch there. Scouts are a little bit concerned about his basic route tree that he ran at Maryland. He's not quite as fleshed out as some of the more big-time receiving tight end threats coming out of college here. But he did run a fairly simple route tree, and he's not quite as long as most tight ends. Obviously, like I mentioned, he is 6'2". He's not like a 6'5", 6'6" type of guy with massive wingspan like some of the bigger, more top-end tight ends in the league here, and he does struggle with trying to catch the ball over the shoulder as well. That's where some of his receiving ability does lack, as he's more of like a facing the ball, make the catch type of guy, as opposed to somebody who's going to make the catch on the run over the shoulder. But overall, again, a solid selection here. C+, grading continuing to get better here. Like I said, that C- I gave at the beginning of this, that's as low as it gets. It just continues to kind of go up from there. For round 4 at pick number 131, the running back from Michigan here. This guy's a bulldozer, Hassan Haskins, 6'1", 220 pounds. He has really good size for the position. And again, a bulldozer. He can plow through the best of them. He has showed that on numerous occasions. If you watch his highlight film, it's like, I want to say like 65-35, him completely plowing people over or blowing through tackles to continue to keep the ball moving there. He has an aggressive stiff arm, a stiff arm in all caps. And that was in a couple places that I saw. Good vision to find the hole, and he shows some really good cutback ability as well on some of his run plays. He's not like the big-time cutback guy, not the most elusive, but he does have the ability to make a guy miss and change direction. He's not going to do a ton in the passing game, though. That is probably one of the biggest knocks of his game, is he's more of just like strictly a running type of guy. I look at him as almost like a really good like backup in terms of just like mold to, and he's not obviously Derrick Henry's size, but he has a similar running style of being able to plow through defenders in a really strong stiff arm. So he does provide like a good relief for the type of running style that Derrick Henry employs in his game. Obviously not Derrick Henry, not his size. Derrick Henry is a mountain of a man, but he does have the similar running style. And there are some injury concerns, obviously, with such an aggressive and hard-hitting run style. You're always going to be worried about him potentially being injury prone or just, dealing with a lot more contact and things like that. So a little bit of concern with his play style there, but overall a good pick. I graded this one a B. I really like the Hassan Haskins selection as relief for Derrick Henry there. Overall, for day number 3, though, I opted to settle at a C+ grade. Like I said, the C- was the lowest. A handful of guys had C+. Hassan Haskins came in with the B. I like a C+ average for day 3, which is a average to above average grade here for the third day overall. A bunch of really good depth guys. Honestly, I could see the entire draft class of the Tennessee Titans making the final roster, just because everyone, even from the very bottom guy, has like a place on the team that they could fit themselves into. And I really think that it was just a very solid to somewhat good day 3 selections. Now, moving into day number 2, we're looking at 3 different selections here, 2 in the third round and then 1 in the second. And we'll talk with the final pick of day number 2 for the Titans here in round number 3 at pick 86, Malik Willis, the quarterback from Liberty. I gave this pick an A, an excellent selection for the Titans. One, because there's obviously quarterback questions with Ryan Tannehill. I'm an avid supporter of Ryan Tannehill. I love what he has brought to the table since going to Tennessee. I tell people, I'm a Colts fan first, but I'm a football fan second, and I can appreciate good football when it's being played. And Ryan Tannehill has been one of the most efficient quarterbacks since making his way to Tennessee. But after that playoff game that we saw this past, postseason, there's obviously going to be some questions here, and the Titans clearly wanted to start looking forward. Malik Willis, considering that a lot of people thought he was going to go in round number 1, to land him in the third round and kind of have a guy that, has a massive throwing arm. He brings outstanding athleticism to the quarterback position. He doesn't really rely, for somebody that's such an athlete, does not rely too much on his legs, and he is a fairly accurate passer when given the time to work in the pocket. This was an awesome selection and look towards the future. I really like just the raw upside of Malik Willis, and for the fact that the Titans were able to go after and get him, this is a very exciting selection for Tennessee, and I'm sure you Titans fans are excited as well. And like I said, I graded it an A. I'm very envious of this. I, as a Colts fan, actually wanted the Colts to somehow find a way to get Malik Willis, and I'm woefully disappointed that I'm going to have to watch him in a Titans uniform. Then in round number 3 at pick 69, we're looking at Nicholas Petit-Frere out of Ohio State. Another A selection here, an excellent pick, a very athletic offensive lineman, a guy who was graded for the first round, who slipped into the second round here for the Titans to pick, or excuse me, in the third round here, and was he a first or, he's a first or second round grade, one of those two. I think I'm getting the numbers mixed up there, but they picked him at a lower spot than he was projected to go. Very athletic offensive lineman, has played both of the tackle positions. Depth at the offensive lineman is definitely something the Titans needed to work on just a little bit there, just to add, adding another piece like they did here in the third round. He's praised for his footwork and technique with his feet, and he was considered one of the top tackle prospects in this year's draft class. So for the Titans to land him in the third round at pick number 69, awesome selection there for them. He does, his handwork needs a little bit of work, and, he's noted for playing sometimes a little bit too wide in his stances, but overall it's like nitpicky things, and this was an awesome selection for Tennessee. Then looking at round number 2 in pick 35, the cornerback Roger McCreary. And like I said, I am very envious of a handful of the picks that the Tennessee Titans made, because a handful of these guys I was talking about pre-draft myself, and Roger McCreary out of Auburn, very effective in press man. He has a very physical style of play. He was considered by some around the third best corner in the draft class. He does a very good job of getting his hand between the ball and the receiver's hands, so he's constantly breaking up passes. I mean, he might not be the best tackler, and he's a little bit undersized, but I gave this pick an A-. I think that Roger McCreary is just a really good, just an outstanding talent for this team to be bringing into the secondary there. And again, I'm a Colts fan. I'm a little bit jealous of this, especially on the day 2 selections. Not to say I'm not happy with what we got, but you got a handful of really good picks here in day number 2. For my grade for day number 2 overall, I sat it at an A. I mean, you cannot really argue with the picks there, at least at face value. It's obviously too early to really give true grades here, but at face value, just based off what we know about players so far and where they're coming from, what they've done collegiately, you get an A to start things off here, and I like what they got done in day number 2. And then to cap things off, the day number 1 selection in round 1, pick number 18, involving a trade away of wide receiver A.J. Brown. You guys went and drafted wide receiver out of Arkansas, Treylon Burks, 6'2", 225 pounds. Funny enough, his comparison in the NFL was A.J. Brown with a little bit more wiggle to his game. Listen, I love what not A.J. Brown, excuse me. See, this is my mind spinning here. I was a very big fan of A.J. Brown. I've got to say this. Treylon Burks, he brings a lot of really good raw talent to the table. I mean, he is just a mountain of a man. Massive wide receiver, big hands, great ability to make the catch. I mean, the only real knocks to his game is that for being as big as he is, he does not play quite as aggressive as someone his size would normally, so that's something he needs to add, is a little bit more aggression to his game, especially in contested catches and things like that. But Treylon Burks brings so much upside to the table. I understand why the Titans are willing to move on from A.J. Brown to draft Treylon Burks. I am just not a big fan of trading away A.J. Brown for Treylon Burks. Again, if you're a Titans fan, you're listening to me. I'm a Colts fan. I cannot reiterate that enough, and I want to make sure it's very clear as to how much praise I'm giving you guys as a fan of a rival team. I love football first, and I'm a Colts fan second, and I'm a massive A.J. Brown fan. I thought he was a top 5 wide receiver going into this season last year. I still think when he's healthy, he's a top 5 wide receiver. The guy plays like an absolute animal, and I hope that, the absolute best for him when he's over there in Philadelphia. I just don't love giving him up and I understand wide receivers are coming out of college so ready these days. I just don't know how I feel about getting rid of A.J. Brown for Treylon Burks. I gave the pick a B+, not because of Treylon Burks, but more so because of just how you had to end up getting Treylon Burks. Does that make sense? I love Treylon Burks as a player. If you're not trading away A.J. Brown, I would slap an A+ on this and call it a day, but I'm going to settle at a B+ because I'm not the biggest fan of how you wind up with Treylon Burks in losing A.J. Brown. So I settle at a B+ there. And when you're looking at the averaging, we have a B+ in day number 1, an A in day number 2, and then a C+ in day number 3. overall, if I was to give a final grade on this one here, I'm going to settle at an A-. I just think that this draft overall was really good. You nailed a bunch of guys late in day 3 that are all going to fill, just like smaller rotational holes and things like that into your team. Day 2 was a really strong group of guys with a really good pick for the future, and then 2 guys that are more than likely going to find some starting snaps within their first season, and then Treylon Burks is immediately going to be looked at as a potential number 1 wide receiver. This was a very good draft class overall for the Tennessee Titans, and like I said, I'm a Colts fan. Not to say I'm not happy with our draft class, but I am definitely envious of some of the picks that you guys managed to walk out of the 2022 NFL draft with. But that is it for me. Again, my Titans fans, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I talk about everyone as clear as day. I do not let my fandom blinders blind me and sway my opinions on things. Let me know again what you guys think of your draft in the comment section down below, and I will see you all next time. Have a good one.